So I have roped Sigh in to show you how to make steak and chips because it is just simply the best, the way he does it. I think you won my heart, darling, with your steak. I've never eaten better steak than the way Sigh cooks it, so I thought that actually he should show you all and share his top tips with you on how to do it on the AGA. So, darling, over to you.
Okie dokie. Well, the starting point is, before preparing any food, and I'm sure that Ask Charlie's told you this, is to wash your hands. And I can assure you that I've been washing my hands thoroughly. I haven't been picking my nose or indeed anything else. So I'm clean, ready to go.
Jolly good. In fact, I didn't tell them to wash their hands.
Oh, well, there we go. That's
Absolute
key. Absolute key. The steak and chip is really idiot-proof, and it's designed for people like me who actually love food, but want to do it quickly, can do it for the whole family if Charlie's under pressure or, you know, and need to feed the children quickly. And it's very simple. It consists of a bag of McCain or something similar oven-ready chips.
So actually, let's just talk about oven chips. So we quite like these, but actually the Waitrose Essential are possibly better.
So what I've got the pan that I'm going to put the oven-ready chips in, and I just put that on the hot plate of the AGA with a little bit of oil. Rapeseed oil, I think, works pretty well. And we just let that heat up till that gets hot, really until you can get it all around the pan and it is smoking, and you can really hear it cracking there as well. I always think maybe a touch more oil is never a bad thing. A touch more of everything really is never a bad thing, actually, which is my motto on all these things. But there we go, that is going nicely, and we'll just let that heat up a fraction longer. We will then put the chips in, like so. Delicately done, I'm sure you can see. That's probably enough, isn't it? Do you think that's enough for us?
Yeah.
We'll get I will get a metal, what are these called? Come on.
Oh God, I can't think straight now. It's distracted me.
Spatula, is it a spatula?
Yeah,
Not
it's
really.
a
I don't
spatula.
know. So I've just put those chips, the oven ready chips, which are frozen of course, on this heated oil, and I'm just going to drizzle that with a little bit of sea salt. Let that oil get hotter even still. Flip these over so effectively you get the chips just all coated with a thin coating of rapeseed oil. That's, I think rapeseed oil is actually wonderful stuff, it really is. Then, there we go, oven gloves, because this is hot. And into the AGA.
Where are you putting it?
The right hand hot AGA oven at the top right, and actually.
So he means the roasting oven,
Oh,
and
that's what
in
I
the
mean.
middle of the roasting oven. Yeah, not on the bottom, not on the top.
In the middle of the roasting oven. And they probably say, I don't know, we haven't actually really looked at the packet, but it probably says they'll be ready in 20 minutes. But actually, I reckon that you probably leave them for about 35, 40 minutes. And they'll get really crispy. So leave them for longer than what they suggest, and then you get a really nice crispy French fries. So
yeah,
we'll leave it at that at the moment. That's the first bit done.
Okay, we will be back with the steak in a little while.
Right, so we're back again, and the chips have been in for about 15 or 20 minutes. So what I do is I just obviously open up the AGA, take these chips out, and as you can hopefully see, without burning my hand, that these are browning quite nicely. So just give them a quick turn, and just flip those over so that the sort of ones which are looking as if they're starting to burn, you kind of try and just rescue those a little bit with a good flick, maybe just a touch more salt, and then these will go back in the roasting section of the AGA for probably about, the way those are looking, not much longer than about another 10 minutes or so, 15 maybe. So, as I said, about 30, 35 minutes does the job. And what I'll do in the meantime is get a bowl ready for the chips. like that. One that my sister gave me with a, I think it's a snipe on there, it's rather nice. And some kitchen, what do you call this, kitchen
roll.
Kitchen roll.
Si's obsessed with kitchen
I'm obsessed with kitchen roll. Can't have enough kitchen roll. And I'm going to put that in there so that when the chips are ready, I'm going to put the chips in there so that the excess fat is soaked up by the kitchen roll. In fact, we'll put another bit in the middle. And then just leave it in the warming oven for whilst I do the steaks, which will literally, the steaks will take 5 minutes or so. So, we'll leave that like that.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Di.
Okay, so moving on to the next stage, what we've got here is a couple of quite large, as you can see, pieces of rump. And what I asked the butcher to do is to cut those quite thin and then bash them out a bit. So effectively what we're trying to end up with is something, similar to a minute steak, but a little bit thicker. I discovered rump quite recently because I was very keen on sirloin, but actually rump is about, I think it's about 7-8 pounds a kilo cheaper than sirloin, and actually cooking it like this and giving it a bit of a bash. So I'm just giving it a bit of a bash just to flatten it out a little bit more. As I said, the butcher is, as they say in Blue Peach or whatever, prepared already, but just give it a little bit of a bash out. But the flavour of rump is actually absolutely delicious, and I think it's kind of quite underrated. So there we are, there's the rump ready to go, and in fact I just need a knife for here, so I'm just going to grab a knife, and if I can find a knife, there we are, and we're actually feeding the whole family tonight, but I'm just going to cut this rump and just cut one steak off now, so effectively we've got one rump steak there with a little bit of fat on. Not everybody likes the fat. Personally, I do like a little bit of fat on my beef, but there we go. So that's ready to go. And what I'm going to just do is just, again, a little bit of sea salt, a little bit on the fat, so that just crisps up nicely as well. And that will be ready to go into the pan. What we're going to do now is get the chips out.
Do you want me to do that, Dwayne?
Okay, yes, my sous chef can do that.
It was
I don't know, you're probably all too young to remember Fanny Craddock. But Fanny Craddock, great hero of mine, and her husband Johnny, who was rather henpecked, and the only thing that Johnny was allowed to do was the washing up. So we've got a slight role reversal.
I let you do
tonight
more than the washing up.
Charlie's essentially becoming my, well, I was going to say my Fanny, but that doesn't sound quite right, does it? So
Definitely not your Fanny.
my Johnny, yes.
Yes, I'm your Johnny.
So there we go. So there are the chips, and we just dry those off a little bit, and those can go into the warming oven.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll put them in there.
So the chips have had, as I said, about 30-35 minutes. You'll probably gather that
They're looking pretty fantastic.
they're looking pretty good. My sort of cooking skills, we're not very big on timers and clocks here. It's just all done. Oh, it's already in there.
In fact, my Christmas cakes are still in the oven.
Oh, it's already in there, are they?
My fruit cakes. So I'm going to take those out because they are ready.
Good, that looks delicious, as ever. Okay, so the important thing is to keep the lid on the hottest ring of the AGA for down as long as possible, because the thing about AGAs is they are great, they're lovely, they're great things to have in the kitchen, but they do lose their heat quite quickly, and the secret of cooking steaks is to have a really hot pan. So I'm going to take the pan now, I'm going to put it on the hot plate. So the pan is on the hot plate of the AGA. I put a little bit of rapeseed oil in, and I'm going to put a little knob of butter and let that get really hot. Just leave it in there for a minute.
You want it really sizzling, don't you, darling?
Yeah.
I love Sigh says a little knob of butter. It's not really what I would call a little knob of butter, but it's where we differ.
There we go. So we'll just let that get
And you
hotter
want the
still.
butter to turn brown, don't you?
Yeah, almost like a beurre noir, I think is
The technical term.
yeah. It's always very good beurre noir when you have skate beurre noir with which is really hot butter and capers. It's actually delicious. But we're doing steak tonight, so we'll leave the skate for another evening. There we go. So that now is heating up nicely. Give it a little bit longer. So we get this pretty much almost smoking.
And that's why you want to keep the lid down on that side of the Aga and make sure that your Aga is pretty hot. You don't want to have spent all day cooking on it because you just won't be able to get the heat in the pan. And I'm using, well, Sigh's using this pan that I make pancakes in, and it's perfect for frying. It works really well. It's from OXO. OXO do a great range of pans and kitchen equipment.
So that's going nice and dark now. Anybody who's interested, we're actually cooking some frozen peas. They're not very technical.
Yeah, they're done. I'm going to go and strain those.
So, steak into the pan, salted side down to start off with, and there you are, you get that nice sizzling sound. So one side is salted, which is down on the pan, so I'm just going to salt the other side for when I turn it over. Now, one of the secrets to this, there are many secrets, and I think I'm sharing most of them with you this evening, but one of the secrets was told to me by a friend of mine called Tim Crowley, and I don't know if Tim's a subscriber or whether he's watching, but you never know, he might be. And he saw me cooking steak once, years and years ago, and he said, what on earth do you do? You keep on turning it from one side to the other, like you're sort of flipping burgers in McDonald's. And I said, well, isn't that how you do it? He said, no. Once you put your steak in, you just leave it completely on that side, on the one side, let it cook thoroughly on that side, and then flip it. So what you're going to do is, you'll see when I turn it, you're going to get quite a nice sort of burnt, slightly caramelised look to the exterior of the steak. Of course, it depends how you like your steak. I mean, I personally like it rare. I think for the sort of family, we tend to go, medium rare. Kind of steer away from overcooked, because that does rather, particularly with rump, it can toughen it up a bit. So we're just going to leave that now, and I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure on there, just to make sure that that is sitting down nicely. So you can really hear that sizzling away. The other secret to this, of course, is, and Charlie's right with me on this one, is making as much mess as possible. So I like lots of oil and butter and everything splattering around, and then I can walk away and Charlie can clear it up afterwards.
Yeah, thanks, darling.
So, there we go. So I would say we're probably giving that something like about 2 to 3 minutes each side. And I would say that's probably had a couple of minutes so far.
Yeah.
So another minute, and then I will flip that over. Like I said, it's a personal preference, obviously, how you like your steaks done. And the key is not to keep flipping it. You can do that in McDonald's, which is what I say to my children that they'll end up by doing if they don't do their homework, which is quite a challenge at the moment with homeschooling, but that's another matter altogether. So there we go. I think that's now cooking quite nicely. The fat's cooking as well, and I'm just going to flip that quickly, like that, and there you go. You see you've got that slightly burned on the edges there, but it's delicious, it really is. And then we get that nice crackling, sizzling sound. Okay, so where we left off, I flipped the steak. It's now had a couple of minutes on this side, and I would say that is pretty good to go. So there we are, off the heat, onto the board, just so that everybody can see what's going on. Remove that there, and there you are, one pan-fried rump steak. Right, so we've got the steak on the board, and I'm just going to cut into this and just show you how that's all cooked. Just to get an idea. There you are. That's what I would call probably a medium rare steak. So it's not really rare, it's medium rare. And because it's quite thin, as I said, almost a bit like a minute steak, it really doesn't take that long. There we go.
Some chippies on there.
Some chips on there. Put that with it too. Don't want anybody to be hard done by, not get a full portion.
And then we're just serving with some peas, petit pois.